Today we're making some barber magic happen. I mean, look at this transformation. Look how good this guy looks. You know, I think it really is true when they say that a guy's haircut is equivalent to a girl's makeup, because look how good this guy looks just by getting a fade. Just a little fade and lineup goes a long way. If you like how this haircut turned out, stay tuned, because I'm gonna show you exactly how I did it and what tools I used so that you can do it too. Honestly, speaking of haircuts though, it's time to buzz this off. Now that we're done the haircut, let me show you the tools. So the main workhorse today, and honestly every day, is the Tpob Play. I swear to you, this is probably the best clipper of 2024 and probably all time as of right now. This thing is a beast. And for our trimmers, we got two trimmers. So we got, number one is the Ghost X. This is sick for debulking the hair. And for detail work and lining, we got the Pink X Deluxe trimmer. This blade is so good. It is so smooth, yet cuts so sharp. And last but not least, for our foil shaver, we got the Tpob Skull Shaver. This thing is really cool. It's got 2 speeds. It's just awesome. So that's the main 4 machines that we're using today, and it's all by Tpob. Okay, honestly, enough talking. Let's get to the haircut. Okay, so first things first, we're using a number 2. We always usually start with the higher guard, like a number 2 or a 3, depending on the haircut, so that we can set the foundation of the cut. So I start off with my number 2 closed. I do end up opening it up after. This is how we're setting our foundation for the fade, and we're creating the burst fade shape. I do end up going with the number 3 guard so that we can further set the foundation and blend the top to our fading area, and we're making sure to follow the shape of the burst fade. And now we take our Ghost X trimmer by Tpob, and we set our first trimmer guideline. This is probably the best trimmer on the market in terms of debulking because of how soft it feels. It doesn't irritate the skin because it's not super sharp, but it cuts the hair short enough so that when you have a foil shaver, it cuts it down right to skin. And I'm making the burst fade shape, kind of this like half circle around the ear kind of vibe, and this is what makes burst fade burst. It's bursting out. And now we're taking our skull shaver. Now we're taking the stubble down to skin. This is important. This is what makes a skin fade skin, a bald fade bald, is using the foil shaver. That way, when the client feels the side of his head, there's no stubble. It feels very smooth. Adds an extra couple days to the haircut, and it gives a bald fade that crazy contrast. It really takes it up another level. And now for the actual fading part, we have our Tpob Play, and then we're gonna take our clipper open. We're going about ½ an inch up, and we're setting a very light guideline here because we don't want to create any harsh guideline. The harshest guideline I like to create is probably the trimmer guideline, and even then, I like making my job easy. So we just set a guideline just enough so that we can see it. Then we go about halfway down and we set our lever also halfway, and we're just constantly attacking that line now. We're flicking out, and then we close our clipper all the way once we're at the very bottom of that guideline. That line should mostly be gone already. Then I do end up taking my trimmer, my Ghost X, and we're just using the corners of the blade just to further blend that line out. This is probably the most important part of the fade, in my opinion, of a bald fade at least, because this is the hardest line to take out. A lot of people struggle taking this guideline out, and that's why I like to set it very softly. So make sure that this line is completely gone. Okay, so now we're taking our 1 guard open, and we're setting another guideline, but it's a very light guideline. And we're basically doing the same exact step as we did before, starting with our clipper open, but this time we're skipping a step. We're not going halfway this time. We're just gonna go from open straight to closed. Just because of the amount that I'm flicking out, it's not necessary for us to go halfway with this guard. You can if you want, but you don't really have to. And now you're gonna see that there's still a little bit of a faint line between that number 1 guard and that blade open area that we just did. So that's where we use our 0.5 guard. And for this part, just make sure that you're only using the corner of your blade. And we start again open with using the corner of the blades, and then we close the clipper as we go down in that area. After this, there shouldn't be a line there at all. And now it's time to do some detail work. We're going back to our clipper open using the corner of the blade just to get out any inconsistencies and any dark spots. This part of the fading process is really what makes a fade come together. So you want to really take your time when you're detailing. Only use the corner of your blade, because if you use the whole blade, you might create another guideline, or you might take the fade up too high, and we don't want that. Detailing is what takes a bad fade to a good fade, and a good fade to a great fade. And now the fade didn't look too bad, but I did see some dark areas in the parietal ridge area. So I take my number 2 and I start with it open, and I work on just fading that area even further. That way we have a nice transition from the skin all the way up to the top of the hair. And this part of the fade is just detailing. To blend it even further, now I'm taking my 1.5 guard and I'm just using the corner of the blade, and I'm closing the lever as needed. It doesn't have to be too complicated with the lever open and closed. Just know that whenever you're setting your guideline, you want to start open and then close it as you go down, blending out that bottom guideline. Usually when I'm detailing, I'm mostly using my 0.5 and 1.5 guards to connect the major guidelines within the fade. But I do just end up going through the different guards, just depending on what I think I need. That way the blend is just all the way smooth, all the way through. Right now there's a ton of dark spots, but this is why we detail the blend. And then now we're just lining him up. We're going with the natural line. We're not pushing him back, but we're making sure it looks sharp. Now it's the same exact steps for the other side. I'm just gonna time lapse it. You guys can watch it. Do you guys watch the time lapse or do you just skip through it? Let me know in the comments. Okay, so for most burst fade mohawks, people usually line the back, but my client actually likes doing a low taper in the back of the hair, which I agree with. I think it does look pretty good as well. I do like how this looks because of the shape it gives the back. So as always, we're starting our first guideline with our trimmer, our Ghost X, and we're setting a soft guideline. And then we go about halfway open with our blade, just about 1/2 inch. And then we go blade open, going up about 1/2 inch, setting another guideline. And then we're just gonna blend out that trimmer guideline right away. So we're just closing the clipper as we go down. And we're making sure we're really flicking out with our clipper here because we want to keep this taper low. And then we do the same thing, but with our 1 guard now. So we start 1 guard open, and then we close it as we go down. And then now we're taking my number 2. You see how I'm aggressively flicking out? Create the shape where the hair kind of goes outwards, away from his head. This is very important because we don't want to take the fade too high. And then to further shape the back to make sure it's a nice smooth transition, we're going clipper over comb. Notice the angle of my comb. This is very important. I didn't record this part, but we did fade and trim the beard and we lined it up just to make sure it looks good. We didn't cut the top too much this time, so I didn't even bother recording it, but we're still gonna style it because, you know, we wanna make our clients feel good. I'm posting this online for you guys to see, so we wanna take the extra time to style it. That way the haircut looks as best as it could. First, I wet the hair. Especially with curly hair, you want to work with more damp hair than dry. And then I put some curl spray in it, I diffuse it, and then boom. This is the finished cut. Look at this transformation. Guys, if you attempt this haircut using my techniques, please send me a picture on my Instagram and I'm going to take a look. Thanks for watching.